Scott for arranging. This is my third lecture series that I've given here. And the Beverly Hills Women's Club, they have wonderful functions here. If you're not a member, they have terrific events. They have terrific events. They have wonderful lectures. They have gym. They have. I'm looking for the one body that says how to win the lottery. So when that comes up, how to win the lottery. I want to go to that lecture. When that comes up, let me know. So this is my third in the series. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Come and get something to eat and sit down. This is the third in my lecture series. And today we're going to talk about something that I think we all get frustrated with, which is communicating clearly, effectively, and being heard. And most important, getting what we want when we say what we want. So I'm going to give you some techniques here. And what I think is so strong about the concept of radical communication is that when we start talking to somebody, we're always thinking about, I'm telling you something that I want, so you will give it to me. That sounds like, a good communication style. There's a problem with that, though, because people keep getting frustrated that when they do tell, they're not getting back either someone's paying them attention, or they're definitely not getting back somebody who's saying to them, oh, I'd love to do that for you, unless it's a very close friend. Unfortunately, I have. So, I want to talk about what's radical about what I'm talking about in this lecture, which is, we're going to do a 180 on that point of view. And the 180 is that you actually start thinking more about the listener's state, the listener's response, and validating the listener's experience so that they feel more comfortable in listening to you. They're not challenged, they're not hearing sarcasm, they're not feeling like they're going to be put down. And, part of the communication in our relationships is so often about telling people what they're doing wrong. So, I don't know about you, but if someone comes to me and says, listen, Melody, the way you parked your car, I immediately, my chest gets very tight. I immediately become much more upset. I'm now thinking that they're attacking me, so all my defenses start coming up. And I actually create the fight, flight, or freeze response, which means I now have hormones that are circulating in me that are making my heart beat faster, my muscles tighten up for that flight, and I kind of start to numb out to what's happening in front of me because I'm thinking about how to protect myself. Well, if we're approaching somebody in that way, they will definitely not hear what we're saying, and they will definitely be so threatened that they will not even think about doing what you want with them. So, what I want to start to do is create in you guys the qualities of how we can let the listener exist in our conversation. It is a dialogue. It does need to. And I'm going to leave some time at the end to talk to you about your communication issues or problems or anything that you're dealing with, or any questions whatsoever. And if, as I'm speaking, if you feel like you have a question or I'm not clear on something, please raise your hand, and I will address that, because also in communication, we know one basic fact, which if somebody doesn't get the first part of something you're saying, they will not get the next part, because they'll still be focusing on trying to figure out what the first part of what you're saying about, for me, that mathematical formula in grade 10 that explains something about how a light bulb works. So I never did learn how the light bulb works, I just kind of put it in and turn on the switch. So if you turn to your sheet here, I've kind of broken down the lecture so you can follow along with me. And what we want to do is hi, how are you? Good to see you. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I didn't want to be sick for the world.
Oh, you're terrific. Get something, and I think there's another.
Perfect.
Hi. We're talking about radical communication, and then our focus is more on the listener's state. It's about creating an environment that's conducive to having a conversation, especially when we're going into real complex issues or something that may threaten somebody else's perception or belief in themselves. For example, I may want to tell my partner that,
you gotta take that garbage out. It really, really stinks. While the TV's on, while he's doing something else, while all these things are happening, he's not going to hear me. And I'm going to go into, as I continue, a little bit more about the male brain, which is still a mystery to me, as ours is to them, and really understand their processing, so when we do speak to them, how we can get their attention and have them listen to what we're saying. So, we want to first of all start with the physical state of ourselves, the listener, and the environment. Because, first of all, we check and see, am I halt? And I got that broken down in here. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And if you've got anybody you're speaking with who has any kind of sugar issue or hypoglycemia, if it's around 4 o'clock and you're trying to get through to them, they'll be irritable, they'll be self-protective, and you won't be effective. Again, I'm trying to make this a little more left-brain cerebral on how you can speak to somebody and pull out of sort of the emotional place that you might be delivering the message from. Because the moment people feel someone's emotional, they start responding. We have these things in our brains called mirror neurons. We sort of respond to what's going on around us. They respond with that same level of anxiety, fear, and defensiveness. So first we want to take care of ourselves. Ideally, if we're with our partner, they're rested or they're fed. Same thing with children, especially with children. And of course, there's no TV, no distractions, no noise. We want to minimize the noise. And we also want to check on the senses, because remember, if you sense the room is too messy, if it's too noisy, if it's too smelly, if the person's uncomfortable in their clothes, whatever it is, their mind is going to their senses. That's our primal movement in our primitive brain. We first recognize our primal need, and then we attach an emotion or a thought to it. I feel hungry. I don't eat. Why don't people give me the food that I want? Nobody does anything I want. And then we get this whole emotional trail that gets us off focused. So, and there's another one of these around. Hi, how are you? No, come sit down. Don't worry at all.
Hi.
We're looking for, if there's an extra one of these at the table. If not, if you can look, you can look with others, and then I'll get you your own copy at the end of this. Okay. So again, I'm talking about radical communication skills, which are about, instead of focusing on getting your point across and getting what you want, focusing on the listener. Because if it is a dialogue, it's a two-way experience, and if they're not included in what you're saying, trust me, they will leave the room, either physically or mentally. So, we've talked about, the halt, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, but also to me, one of the most important pieces is UI, under the influence. If you were trying to get through to somebody who is on some kind of drug for sleeping or bad drugs or alcohol, more than a few drinks, you will not be heard. Again, the sensory experience takes over any kind of cerebral absorption. So if anything's happening that's making somebody more sensitive or essentially more aware of something else, they cannot, it's impossible, the brain will not function and focus on what you're trying to tell them. Now, we talked about the surrounding environment. Now, this is one of my favorites. It's called the tone. How is our tone? You know, I can come in with the most lovely content, and I can say this to my dear friend because we have a long relationship, and I know she's going to stick around after I say it, which is, well, I'm glad you showed up today. No, at least you came to my lecture. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule. Now, those are lovely words, but my tone is delivering an accusatory, demeaning, and put down experience for her. So she's sitting there going, okay, I'm going to just wait, I'm going to think about this, or I'm just going to listen. She's going to have some negative emotional response, which again will take her out of her focus on what I'm saying. I don't want that to happen if I'm going to be effective. So the tone is so important, and that's, again, comes from taking care of your physical